Hi, and welcome back to Stone Soup.
The world according to Sci-Fi Geeks.
So it's 2 weeks since Mother's Day, and on Mother's Day, I got taken to see Thor and then out to dinner. We're not going to talk about dinner. We're going to talk about Thor. He was pretty. Oh, yes, and it was a good movie.
Yeah.
And he was pretty. It's almost impossible to believe this is the same actor who played Captain Kirk's dad in the beginning of the J.J. Abrams Star Trek movie.
They
There's
look nothing alike.
Well, there's like twice as much of him.
Yes.
He's been eating a lot of Wheaties.
And red meat.
Lots of red meat.
Oh,
And scrambled eggs, but we won't. There's a scene in the movie where he's gobbling everything in sight. And you just hope he really likes the scrambled eggs.
Yes. Further evidence of excellent genes down in Australia. He's an Australian actor like Hugh Jackman. You realize that Thor and Wolverine exist in the same universe. And
On one tiny little island.
Yes. And Wolverine,
Those hogs. I mean, it's all right.
But what I was saying is that Thor and Wolverine exist in the same, comic book universe. Wolverine is an on-again, off-again Avenger. He's an on-again, off-again member of a lot of groups. So
He gets around.
So you can totally have them both in the same movie. Of course, that would probably melt the celluloid.
Celluloid.
Celluloid. Whatever.
Celluloid.
Celluloid. The film.
Yeah, there you go. Why don't you say that? It's a word you can pronounce. Well, I know.
Whatever.
Actually,
It would melt the cameras.
no, they aren't. Well, yeah, they do use cameras. Might melt the pixels. You can't melt pixels.
Well, it'll certainly melt the underpants of every woman in the theater.
In the theater, that's true. Just melt the elastic in their underpants. Be fabulous. But okay, back to Thor.
Yes,
the movie.
the movie
Thor. They kind of wasted Natalie Portman because this is a wonderful actress. I mean, she just won an Oscar and everything, but she didn't have anything to really do except, be pretty and make him want to come back to Earth.
Yeah.
That was later.
And hit it with a car.
This is just a comment about the reviewers and some of the reviews we've seen. Just for the record, the ice giants are from Norse mythology. They didn't come from the comic books. The screenwriters didn't make them up. They are part of the story of Asgard.
When Marvel decided to make Thor one of their heroes and have him actually be the inspiration for the Norse myth, they adapted the Norse myths.
They said, all of this was true. It just wasn't what the Vikings thought it was. So, if you haven't seen the movie,
the high technologies were taken from magic. It happens.
Yeah. And as a matter of fact, Thor says at one point in the movie, I come from a place where science and magic are one and the same.
Now,
and by the way, it's really cool because he's a good actor.
Yes.
I mean, they had to find a physical archetype.
Because, Thor is big and brawny and blonde, no matter what you're looking at, except Stargate.
He has to be fair-skinned and blonde.
He's Norse. Now,
and big.
Now, I did notice here, they did make the Asgardians multiracial.
Which is kind of cool.
Yes.
Wrong, but cool.
But, if you're just depending on... Well, if all the Vikings ever saw were Thor and Odin and a few of the others who were white, it's not exactly a huge leap for them to assume, they must all be that color. We're all that color.
Yeah.
Limited experiences
will
lead to limited assumptions.
Yep.
Now,
like God's only son was Jesus, therefore God favors males. Maybe God knew that if a woman had been walking around preaching at that time
she would have been
in that place, she would have been stoned before she got a word out. Ever think of that? Maybe God's just intelligent? But we won't go there.
Back to the movie.
Back to the movie.
They actually did manage to bring in Odin's six-legged horse. Yes. I'm not sure how you pronounce that horse's name. Sleipnir, I think.
I don't remember seeing a six-legged horse.
When spoiler alert, Odin comes to save Thor's disobedient butt when he went running off to the ice giant. He's riding a horse. If you look, lots of legs.
Oh, I'll have to double check that when we get the when we get the Blu-ray and we're going through it. What was
frame?
A frame at a time. We'll find that horse.
Of course, there's casting. Anthony Hopkins as Odin.
Yeah. You can't beat Anthony Hopkins no matter what you cast him as, and he's a great Odin. He'd have been a good Dumbledore too, but that's beside the point. He's just really, really good at everything he does.
Now, one of the things with Thor, Thor has one of the more distinctive costumes, as do most of the other Asgardians.
Yeah.
And, comic book costumes tend to be very vivid. And as you know,
And sort of flashy.
to say the least. Now, in most comic book movies, they have to really change those a lot because what looked okay on the page will look ridiculous live action.
Yeah.
They managed to keep the basic look of all the costumes up to and including Loki's golden hat with the great big curved horns. And they didn't look silly. So big kudos to the costume people.
I think part of that, too, is some of that was from Norse mythology.
Yeah,
That's just why they decided to keep as much as they could. And by the way, Thor's costume from the comic books looks pretty darn good on film.
Yes.
Now, I agree totally with what they did with the X-Men and going to the black leather. Because if a whole group of super people are coming to save me, if they're in bright yellow spandex, I'm going to fall on the floor laughing. And so is the bad guy. Of course, that could be an advantage.
True.
While he's rolling on the floor laughing, you go, pop, and you're done.
Yeah. And of course, Wolverine, king of the badasses, he can pull off yellow spandex, but
You know what? No, he can't.
no.
He just looked like a big sissy boy. Except it's really hard for Wolverine to look like a sissy boy. Aren't we talking about Thor?
Yes, Thor.
Anyway, so Thor. Thor is about this Norse god who was a little disobedient and some other dangerous stuff. And Dad thought he needed a lesson, so Dad said, "Okay, boy, no more powers, down to earth. And oh, by the way,
You are grounded.
you are so grounded to the earth. And by the way, here's your hammer. You won't be able to pick it up. Fling."
Yes. There was sort of the stone thing going on
Yeah.
there.
So the hammer, which is, I think its name is pronounced Molinar. Say again? Mjolnir. Mjolnir is, like she said, it's kind of embedded in stone, and nobody can manage to pry it loose. And people are coming from miles around because it hit the earth with a
Thud.
a really noticeable thud.
They thought it was like a falling satellite or something, so they came to investigate what crashed.
And they find this funky looking hammer. And so everybody's got to try and pick it up because this is too cool for words. It's all, sword and stone.
Yeah.
But meanwhile, Thor landed a little ways away from it.
A couple miles away.
And he gets, just as he hits as he's coming down, Natalie Portman hits him with her car. Pow! And so she barrels out. She's like, "Oh, please don't be dead." Which, of course, he wasn't. That would be kind of a bad way to start your movie.
Well, yeah.
And, no. Anyway, so, she rescues him, and I guess we should be careful to say there will be spoilers because I don't know how to talk about a movie without mentioning things that are in it.
Yeah.
But the whole thing is, and this is also, I think, from Norse mythology, is that Odin was trying to teach him a lesson. That's why he wound up on Earth.
Of humility. He felt that
Humility, yeah.
Thor, although he's a good man, because, well, he's the son of the king of the gods. So, let's be frank, he's an arrogant little twerp.
I wouldn't say little,
Well, no.
but he's an elegant, he's an arrogant twerp who's full of himself.
Yep. So,
Plus, he's this big brawny guy who likes to brawl.
and he control, kind of like X-Men Storm, he has a certain level of control over the weather. He can summon up storms and lightning because Thor, god of thunder. So, and he likes a good fight. It's a way to spend energy. Again, high technology.
He's like a
ability.
He's like a sort of out of control teenager.
A bit, yes.
So he comes to Earth and he learns his lesson. I won't tell you how.
Now, one problem I have, although this is a very fun popcorn movie, I do feel that Thor learned his lesson a little too quickly. I mean, I know they had a limited amount of time, but they could have given the impression a little more time had passed.
Yeah, it seemed to be very abrupt.
Yeah.
As if he didn't actually need to learn a lesson. He knew it all along.
He just smacked up Gibbs slapped upside the head.
Yeah, and not having his powers meant that he had to use something else.
I mean, again, slight spoiler alert. After he gets hit by the car, he winds up in the hospital.
I'm not
think
sure he needed it.
there ought to have been a scene there, maybe. That didn't have to be long, 20, 30 seconds, as he's escaping the hospital, as he's looking around and just getting an impression of how fragile we are.
She's right. That would have been very interesting, yeah.
So that later when the big robot thing, you've all seen the commercials, the big robot thing shows up. That's one of the reasons he realized, I've got to get these people out of here. They break like twigs.
Yeah. That would have been something he could have talked to Natalie Portman about. It's like, what is this? What's happened to all these people?
I think her character's name is Jane.
Jane, yes, her character's name was Jane. What is this? What's happened to all these people? She says, well, some of them are sick and some of them got hurt.
You are very fragile.
Yes.
Yes.
So are you. I know you think you're Superman, but you're not. Oh, I
Think of
guess
a
you
fun
couldn't
line.
say that.
Yeah, well, maybe you could. But
Yeah.
they made a Superman joke in Spider-Man.
That's true. You can. I mean, you're not Superman. I mean, that's just kind of what people say. They probably said it long before there was Superman. You're not a Superman. You're not a Superman, Now you just say it without the A because that actually means something.
But
What? I know. I like to ramble. Anyway,
but,
it's like she says, it's a fun movie. Of course, it's a huge hit. You may have
Yes.
noticed the.
again, it is interwoven with the other Marvel movies that have been coming out lately. The Iron Man, Iron, yeah.
Well,
the Iron
they're
Man,
building up to
Hulk.
the Avengers, so they have to introduce as many of them as possible.
So we get these. Oh yes.
Keep a sharp eye out for the guy with the bow.
He'll
he-
be important later.
He will be important later.
If you know the comic books, those of us
You'll
who
say,
know,
"Aha, that's
look,
so and so."
they found a way
we
to work
did.
someone else in without having to give him a whole nother movie. Saves time and money.
Yeah, lots of it.
But
And be sure and keep an eye out in a month or so for Captain America, because
which is also going to be connected in.
he's the whole title of that movie is Captain America: The First Avenger. Yes,
But we keep seeing the same Shield agents
yeah,
in the various movies, which is an excellent.
which
touch.
is a good touch because how many Shield agents can there be?
At one
Oh, did
line,
we see the guy from the last Iron Man movie?
one of
In
them?
this
Yes,
one? Oh, cool.
but
I didn't catch
one
that.
line that I particularly enjoyed, and again, it's part of the whole overlapping, the knowledge that this is all one universe, and they really need to start in some of these movies mentioning mutants, because again, same universe as the X-Men.
Yeah.
But when the giant robot shows up, one of the Shield guys is like, "Is that one of
The
Stark's?" I don't know. He doesn't talk to us.
Yeah,
No, you got a genius.
we're just
there
the
working
government,
robotics.
What do we know? So, in conclusion, obviously, we like this movie very, very much. We will buy a copy and watch it a half a dozen times.
Like I said, just one. Like I said, just
Eat a
that
lot of
one
popcorn.
complaint. Otherwise, all the rest of it was great. A nice balance between the realities of Asgard, which again, high technology, but kind of an old-fashioned personal sense, sort of Shakespearean.
And the realities
And
of Earth, high tech, no sense of history. But be that as it may, I mean, they did know who Thor was, which of course made them think that this guy was nuts,
It should
or
be noted-
drunk, or high, or something.
One thing they changed from the comics is that Thor has a secret identity. As part of his punishment, he wasn't just flung down to Earth. He was trapped in a human body, a regular, normal-sized man with a bad leg, who became a doctor named Donald Blake.
Oh, he was a doctor when Thor
yes.
entered him, I think.
We're not quite. I'm not sure. I haven't actually read the
Now,
comics.
Don Blake and Thor are two entirely different beings, kind of the way the Hulk and Bruce Banner are. They occupy the same time-space continuum, or same place in the time-space
They
continuum.
know about each other.
Yeah.
And, Donald knows that,
because Don
oh,
knows that when something really bad's happening, he walks
don't-
to the cane and he takes his cane and he slams it down, and he becomes Thor, and the cane becomes the hammer. So
They left that out in the movie. I mean, they mentioned a man named Donald Blake.
Blake, a doctor named Donald Blake, but
and they start calling Thor that as a way to get him away from the Shield agents.
yeah,
But he does not, get this ability to shapeshift. Maybe it was avoid house jokes because Doctor Bad Leg.
oh, I
These
hadn't thought of
days-
that. That is exactly what a lot of people would have thought of. And matter of fact, they probably would have been, just like House.
Yeah.
The ones who don't realize, no, this has been going on
This
for
is long before House.
Long before there
House
was
ripped
House.
off Thor, not the other way around.
Yeah, I mean, Thor's been doing this for 30 or 40 years. He's been Don Blake. So,
But possibly when he comes back for the Avengers movie, he will fully establish this other, his secret identity.
I mean, it's not like the Avengers couldn't use a doctor.
No.
Okay, so they're kind of super and stuff, but that doesn't mean they don't get hurt.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I mean, Tony Stark, he's a man in a suit. You hit him
Yeah.
hard enough, the suit will take the worst of it, but he can still break bone.
Oh, yeah, and some other good stuff.
Yes. But,
But
differences between comic and movie.
that's okay, because there's going to be. Okay. So, it's a really good movie. If you haven't seen it, go see it. It's lots of fun.
Yes.
It's worth the popcorn and candy and the drink. And to go back again a second time, even maybe.
Maybe.
So we can't wait for it to come out on Blu-ray so we can go buy it, because that means it's cheaper actually than going to the theater again.
This is true.
And the acting was wonderful. The directing. Oh, Kenneth Branagh. You could not have chosen a better director for this movie. Kenneth can do anything.
Yep.
I mean, he was in one of the Harry Potter movies as one of the teachers.
Yes. Gilderoy Lockhart.
yes.
Second movie.
Chamber of Secrets. but because he is a Shakespearean actor, he could do the Asgard stuff with the stilted dialogue and so on and so forth, and make it right.
Yes.
And then come back to Earth, and he lives on Earth. You know, he can do that right too. No, he was a great director. He is a great director. It was a wonderful choice for this.
When I first heard he was directing it, I admit my first reaction was, Rano? Really? He directs? He directs comic book movies?
Yeah, he's been directing for decades.
True. Of course.
And not just the Shakespeare stuff. He directed Dead Again, which he starred in.
Oh.
Yeah.
Of course, The Avengers, as I understand it, is currently going to be directed by Joss Whedon.
Okay. The director says to hurry the hell up. So go see this movie. You will love it.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye-bye.